To understand the lake, you have to realize that they all travel from the northwest to the southeast. That's how the fault runs. And as it runs that way, sometimes it has to make turns. And it makes what's called in geology releasing bends. Okay? I do this in Pilates, but to disastrous effects. But releasing bends happen when the fault has to turn. And when it turns, you get pull-apart valleys. These are all cute little phrases that geologists use. I say drop fault slices, dropped fault slices. Other people say pull-apart valleys. And you know about these valleys. One is the east arm, the south arm of Clear Lake, for sure. One is the Napa Valley. One is Tamales Bay. One is bits and pieces of Sonoma, Round Valley, the Ukiah Valley, the valley that is Berryessa Lake. We live in all these slivers, and they're not like the valleys I grew up in New York. Those are water-eroded valleys. They're round, they're rather short, and they're not highly erosional. But our valleys are formed by tectonics, mountain movement, and they are steep and deep and erosional. And the last thing that's probably the most important is they're not finished, okay? This is what's exciting about California. Everybody in here is going to profit from being in a place that's not finished. You don't like it? Hang around, okay? It's not finished. What this means for Clear Lake is that the lake, because it's in this sliver, it's a depression that's driven by the faulting, that sliver stays. So that when someone asks you about the lake, how old the lake is, you can turn to them and be absolutely truthful in saying it's older than the hills. The lake is older than the hills. Because the lake, we know, is at least 500,000 years old. The lake is 500,000 years old. And we know that Mount Konocti is about 1/3 of a million years old. So the lake is older than the hills, and the lake has the power and the productivity to do anything it wants but die. It can't die. It's not an enviable situation to be in, okay? I can identify. I'm getting there. It's old, it smells, and it can't die. Mostly with lakes. Here's the history of lakes, if I can find it. No, you don't want to talk about the Quran or the Bible. You don't want to know about oaks. This is succession in lakes. Now you see the geology broke down. We'll get a little biology going here. You start out with a hole in the ground. You have blue water. There's not enough nutrients for the plants to grow. Okay? So you have blue water. And then after a time, 100 years or so, birds flying over, pooping, plants growing on the edge, releasing material from the roots. You get some nitrogen released, and then you get a green lake. It's called a mesotrophic lake. This one's called an oligotrophic lake. And then more time elapses, and maybe people come, and maybe people don't. But people age lakes. Okay? We really do a job of aging lakes, and so we could help this mesotrophic lake become not a green lake, but a blue-green lake. And the blue-green lake will have lots of these cyanobacteria, which we struggle with most recently in the summers. We've always struggled in my history. I've been here for over 35 years and studying the lake, and I like it because I'm a scientist, and scientists thrive on problems. Okay? I've lived in perfect places, and it's really boring. I've lived in perfect, finished places, okay? Brooklyn, for instance. Everybody wants to move to Brooklyn, okay? Yeah, everybody wants to move to Brooklyn, and it's a done place. It's very pleasant. So anyway, we're not finished, and the lake is in this situation where it can't form a meadow. It keeps dropping, the bottom keeps dropping, and it exists in hillsides that channel the wind from the northwest to the southeast. So here you have the San Andreas Fault in California, forming hills running in this direction, and the wind blowing the same way. So Lake Berryessa and Clear Lake have this marvelous funneling effect where they get phenomenal mixing and a phenomenal efficiency. The reason the lake is so productive is that it's phenomenally efficient. And remember that the hillsides are steep. Why are they steep? Because they're formed from tectonics. So that's on the test too. What subsidies do we have to Clear Lake? Geological, because of the form of the hillsides and this dropping of the bottom. Chemical and climatological, because we have a hot summer that follows a winter where there's rain to input lots of nutrients. And finally, biological, in the form of these organisms that I'm probably the only fan of. And I've talked about cyanobacteria for 30 years here, and somebody suddenly decided they were my algae. And so I stay inside. I bury myself like the Sierras when it's really bad, because at the Safeway people come up to me and they say, Harry, your algae is causing a problem. But that's okay, because if they find a use for the algae and someone starts making money from it, I can say, hey, remember, it was my algae. Thanks. It's been fun talking to you. Maybe you have some questions, or we certainly have some music for you.